John Michael Del Vecchio.
Senior.
He was born in Butler, Pennsylvania. His parents were Italian immigrants. They lived in Butler before they moved to Ohio, which is basically where he lived most of his life. He had 5 brothers and 1 sister.
And he was the baby of his family.
The youngest, yes. He did graduate from high school. In those days, that was a big thing. I think he may have been the only child that did graduate from high school. My parents moved to California. He worked at a company in those days called General Controls. Then it became ITT, General Controls. To say, what he actually did, I don't know. He liked people. He liked the guys that he worked with. He was very close to the kids, and especially when they were babies, he always would, whenever he would visit, he would hold them and play with them and rock them to sleep. And so, especially with Adriana, when we came home from the hospital, then my dad was like the nanny. He just would hold her all day long and put her to sleep, rock her to sleep, and then put her in bed. She'd cry, and then he'd pick her up again. So they bonded right away.
There was this game that we would play. It was like alphabet Go Fish. Pap would play it with me as many times as I wanted. He didn't necessarily always let me win, but if I wanted to play it like 5 times in a row, he would play it with me 5 times in a row. Every time I got a chance to spend with him, it was always special. I would make him like a card or just like color him some picture. The reason that I ate turkey sandwiches with ketchup for so many years in my youth was because of him.
Once he retired, he walked 5 miles every day. That was his routine in the morning. And so when he couldn't walk as far and he knew something was wrong, he did go to the doctor and they did all kinds of tests. And so he had a blood disorder called myelodysplasia that is a precursor to leukemia. And he had to get injections that would boost his blood.
The first time I ever really found out that he was so sick, I was in an art class at my junior college. I looked it up of what it was, and that was the worst thing I could have done because it just didn't make me feel any better.
He was just so positive about his treatment, and there was just in his mind there was no way he was going to die from it. He did really well the first couple of years, and it wasn't till probably that last year that it was really bad. So we did at least have as many family dinners as we could in the short months that he was with us. And he tried. Even having it, he was very positive, still very strong, and
unless you really saw him in a hospital getting a blood transfusion done or something like that, he didn't really look that sick because he portrayed himself in a way he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's what he would always say, no matter what. I'm okay. Yeah, okay, Janice, or whoever he'd say that to.
Because he didn't want anyone to worry about him.
The last week of his life was probably just the hardest because he had to get a transfusion every week, and it just became so difficult. It wouldn't last. it would make him sick because he'd get like 2 units of blood and it would just be too much for his system to take. So he would get very ill, and the next day after he got a transfusion, he would have to be in bed, and then maybe he would feel better, and he'd feel better for a day. The doctor, to me, when I talked to him, he was just told me, you know, he goes, the transfusions aren't working anymore. You just need to tell your father, you know, to go into hospice. And that was the hardest thing I had to do. And I'm thinking, you're the doctor, why aren't you telling him these things? And when I had to have the talk with him and tell him what the doctor told me, that was the first time he ever said, he said, "Don't you think I know it, Janice? Don't you think I know it?" And it was just so hard because he didn't, you know, he never acted like he knew. And he just, because he was so positive with everything. He was actually in the hospital on Thanksgiving getting a transfusion. He got it the day before, but he was not that well on Thanksgiving, so. And then he was dead like the next week. It was that fast. Once he didn't get blood, that was what was keeping him alive for so long. But we are thankful that we had him for over 91 years. The chocolate cake was his mother's recipe, and he loved that cake. And my mother used to make it for him for his birthday every year, for us, for our birthdays. It's a special cake. Super good. Oh my god, just kidding.
Except he didn't like it iced, huh?
He didn't.
But he
liked
with
it.
Frosting for the children.
Yeah, because when his mother made it, she didn't frost it, which is how he preferred it. But in family pictures, for birthdays, my mother would frost it with chocolate frosting, so it was chocolate on chocolate. So we're all big chocolate lovers because of that cake.
Roald Dahl, who wrote the BFG, which was a book that I loved as a kid, he also had what my pap had, and it wouldn't be until later that I ended up getting a tattoo of a quote from a Roald Dahl book, a quote from the Twits, and it says, "If you have good thoughts, they will shine out your face like sunbeams, and you will always look lovely." And that just kind of reminded me of my pap, because he was always happy, always had a smile on his face. No one really had anything bad to say about him ever, and even up until like his very last days, he was still so positive.